All right, welcome to Mixed Media, the live streamed and regularly recorded podcast dedicated to all things art, with often a particular emphasis on our special fields of interest, music, film, cinematography, and video games, but also touching on a whole range of other topics. From roller coasters is art, it's economics and business of arts, lots of other fascinating topics, and with almost 2 years now worth of shows, we have probably something for whatever you are interested in. Once again, welcome to tonight's show. My name is Ben Costello. And I'm a flute player and media composer, and we normally have three co-hosts. One of whom is not with us tonight. I'll let my co-host for tonight introduce himself.
Yep, my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, and I left my camera at home, so I'm a black square for now until I find an AI image to replace myself with.
Yes, and from my end, without you, it's very weird. 'Cause I feel like I almost feel like I'm just talking to my own laptop right now. So it's kind of awkward. It feels kind of awkward. So I'll try to not to sound awkward.
Yes.
So once again, welcome to our podcast. Hopefully everyone had a good holiday. Thanksgiving for those who celebrated that. And I guess it would be appropriate to mention, I'm assuming we still have our Black Friday sale on for our where you can support us on our locals page. A special shout out to our supporters on locals. We have host K Kairos, 909 Crime, and Alex Egbert. So thankful for that. We have them supporting us, and you can join them at a special Black Friday sales price of $3 per month. Number of perks along with that, including writing on our live whiteboard. If that's something you are interested in doing, not often taken advantage of, but it is there to be taken advantage of. Yeah, and you can also check out our everywhere you can find us online, where we're streaming. You can find our link to our locals page, where you can support us at that Black Friday sales price, and to our Discord, the corner at mixedmediapodcast.com. Okay.
Sweet.
So let's see. How was your week, Irving?
It was good until I got sick, which I'm sick right now. Probably picked something up during Thanksgiving. So if my voice sounds a bit weird or I sound a bit low energy, that's why. Nothing too terrible, just annoying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully you feel better.
Yes. But other than that, Thanksgiving was good. And it was relaxing and brain is scrambled again. I'm under the weather. But also did a lot of Black Friday shopping and got some hard drives, got some SSD drives. Was there anything particularly interesting I got? Got some silver coins, which is cool, super cool. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of relaxing holiday for me. Then for a change, normally my family gets Christmas going kind of late, but no, we decided, I guess, for some reason this year we're gonna have everything up. For those of you in the Catholic world, I thought it was kind of fun. I was kind of making fun of my family. Like, we have Christmas up before the Feast of Christ the King. Granted, Christmas, not Christmas. Christmas is always the 25th, but Advent is as late as it could possibly be. Yeah. So Feast of Christ the King is as late as it could possibly be. And also, I think Thanksgiving this year is also like the earliest, or just about the earliest it could possibly be.
Yeah.
So there's an awkward gap there.
Agreed.
So yes, we got it up. I mean, relatively not that like crazy compared to the rest of the world, but from like a religious standpoint, we're quite a bit early. Um, yeah.
Yeah. This is the short. I think it's the shortest Advent possible, or something like that.
Yeah, because I think the fourth Sunday Advent is Christmas Eve.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were in the well, maybe not just Catholic, but I'm sure a lot of other people in the Christian Christian world, yeah, that may mean that you are going to spend that Sunday of the 24th, basically at church. Especially if someone like me as a musician, you get to play at a lot of Christmas Eve masses, and you're playing on the regular Sunday mass, so you got to go to mass, play flute in the morning, and then back a few hours later, you're gonna be playing. Yeah. So and then there's Christmas Day the next day too. So yeah. That's how that is going to work, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any news you noticed in the film world?
I'm sure there should be. Let me think. Yeah, I don't think I noticed anything particularly interesting. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't have anything.
Yeah, for music and especially media music, I noticed. Well, I think I mentioned this a while ago that the soundtrack and the actual film Migration, with a score by John Powell, is coming out soon. I think it's coming out like December 15th or 16th.
Ooh.
I don't know. It just looks like a cute animated film. It's about birds. Probably not very accurate. I don't know, but it's a score by John Powell, and especially I think his animated scores are fantastic. So I might try to go see that when it comes out. I saw that some just more reporting on the fact that it's coming out soon.
Cool.
Yeah, I also just reading an article the other day from Film Music Reporter. It's always a good source if you're interested in film music. It has more stuff than you could possibly keep track of. It's basically every announcement of every composer scoring anything ever. I read it, and most of the time it's 90% of it stuff I've never heard of and will probably never hear of again. But I do like their coverage of Oscar stuff, and they put out their list of what they think how they think the Oscars is going to go for Best Original Score. And I have to say, out of the 15 things, they list all the thing that their predictions for who they think is going to win. They also put their other 4 nominees, and then they put up their 10 shortlisted films as well. I have seen and heard music from none of these, so when we get to doing our Oscar stuff, there'll obviously be a lot of music that I have to listen to. They are predicting as the short list, but the 10 films that don't, the runners up that don't make it into the actual list of 5 nominees: Barbie, The Boy and the Heron, Rustin, Napoleon, Nyad, Saltburn, Society of the Snow, Origin, Killers of the Flower Moon, and American Fiction.
Oh, cool.
They list. I've never even heard of most of these films, honestly. They list for their predictions of the actual nominees: Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Elemental, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, and Poor Things. And then they consider the front runner for winning it all to be Oppenheimer.
Interesting.
Yes. So, interesting list. Quite a number of films I have never heard of. I've heard none of the music from any of these, and seen none of these films, so yeah. Interesting. I guess I'll have to eventually start getting around to listening to these so I can, once the Oscars rolls around, we can have that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you're not familiar with what we do on the show during Oscar season, we tend to cover a lot of the nominees and some of the news, And you might be asking, why do I care? And I ask myself that every I say that very question every year now as to why I even care. But part of me hopes that maybe this year the nominees will be not terrible. But we'll see. And if you want to convince yourself that at one point the nominees actually used to be pretty great, just go to, like, I don't know, look up, like, on Wikipedia, like, the 2010, I don't know. Just pick some year before, like...
2010 Best Picture?
Yeah. Just pick something sufficiently old, and you'll be like, oh, I can get behind that list.
2010 Best Picture nominees. Let's see. Just so we all know.
Yes.
Let's see. Winners and nominees. All right, it's gonna take forever to find. Oh, Best Picture. Okay, so we have Up in the Air, Up, A Serious Man, Precious, Inglourious Bastards, An Education, District 9, The Blind Side, Avatar, the James Cameron Avatar, and the winner was The Hurt Locker.
Well, there you go. You can get behind that list. Almost any human being can get behind that list. But nowadays, almost no one has seen any of them. And the Oscars is basically saying, you know, oh, this is great for smaller films because it elevates them or something. No, you're wrong. They're just bad films, generally speaking. There's usually one or two decent to good ones, you know, thrown in there. But whatever. I'll punish myself probably again this year. It's about that time of year anyway. And no good movies come out in theaters during Oscar season anyway. It's the dump season, so I guess that's what I'll be doing.
Interesting. I gotta find the film. I mean, the score, best original score for that year was Sherlock Holmes by Hans Zimmer, The Hurt Locker, Marco Beltrami, Fantastic Mr. Fox by Desplat, James Horner for Avatar, and then the winner was Giacchino for Up.
Oh, there you go. I think you could get behind that list too.
Yes, I agree.
Times a change. Yeah.
All right. Well, is that all we have for our intro segment?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, I guess today, it's just for two of us. We are going to do kind of a large arguing with Reddit. So
yes.
Yeah. Let's move on to that. We can describe what that is there.
Yes. Well, so we got Nathan in the chat. Nathan, who's not here because he's doing a final project. He says, "Irving, are you on the right mic?" I hope so. There's only one mic connected to my computer, so I'm not sure what other mic could be. Do I sound fine to you, Ben?
On my end, it sounds fine. It just sounds, maybe your voice sounds a little bit like you're a little sick, but...
Oh, there you go. Maybe that's what
quality. But the quality of the audio sounds normal to me.
Okay. Good. Sweet. All right, and I think since we're gonna do it all together, I'm just gonna not do a transition and we'll just kind of bounce between movies and music and you know.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
All right. Well, without a special intro, welcome to Arguing with Reddit on Mixed Media Music, a special combined film and music Arguing with Reddit. And if you are not familiar with Arguing with Reddit on Mixed Media, what we tend to do, we have, normally one of us, but I guess tonight both of us, responding to hot takes, controversial, statements, whatever, questions, things of that nature from the internet. And normally the format is we find one for ourselves that we pulled often from Reddit, but sometimes from other places as well. And then we also get to respond live and unprepared to things that our co-hosts have pulled for and found for us. So I guess we'll probably just go back and forth tonight since it's the two of us. And I found one for Irving. I assume he found So I found two for Irving and one for myself. I assume Irving probably found roughly the same things for himself and me. So, yeah.
Sweet. And so we'll start with one for you, Ben. And
Okay.
let me pull it up here. It's the last one I posted in our little chat. It says, "Who adapted John Williams better?" And this is an r slash soundtracks.
Okay.
Michael Giacchino with Rogue One, or John Ottman with Superman Returns, which I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Okay.
Um,
Um.
the person says, "I noticed shades of Williams' influences in their previous scores, so it was interesting to listen to them assume the helm for these movies. I really like both scores."
Okay. Um. I'm not super familiar with Superman Returns, although I've heard it before. Um. I guess the first question is, what do you mean by adapting him? Like, is the is or what you? I guess, are we looking for like who sounds the most like John Williams? Who took like John Williams's ideas from other previous scores in the franchise and used them the best? I guess that would be my question. What exactly we're going for? Um, Now, from what I can recall of these scores, um, I think Rogue One is a really fantastic score given the circumstances. I don't remember exactly why, but my recollection is that Giacchino had like 2 weeks to write the whole score.
Oh wow.
Like and get it recorded. I think like write it and get it approved and recorded in 2 weeks, which is kind of insane.
Yeah,
Um,
that's nuts.
yeah, normally you get a little bit more time than that. I think I don't remember why he was brought on in the last second. Maybe they had someone else writing it and they decided to go in a different route at the last second. I don't remember exactly the story behind that, but he had very limited time to write the score. Um, and I think, given like the constraints of that, it's a pretty successful score. It definitely like feels like it's in the John Williams Star Wars universe. Um, but sometimes like the things that are supposed to be unique to that film sound a little bit kind of derivative and but just not as strong, like kind of almost like watered down John Williams Star Wars in some places, like the music for, I think his name is Director Krennic. Is kind of the main antagonist of our film, sans Darth Vader hallway scene at the last second. Um, so yeah, it kind of feels a little bit like watered down John Williams Star Wars, but still quite appropriate and successful, and especially given the constraints, I think a really fantastic score. Um, and yeah, I maybe what I might say is that if we're talking about which of these scores, to my recollection at least, sounds more like Williams, I think Rogue One probably wins. The Superman Returns, from what I can recall of that score, is it's kind of a good score, pretty competent all around. But it doesn't really. He uses a lot of Williams's themes, so he might be better at like the game of who adapted Williams's original ideas.
Right.
I think he might win that one, but in terms of overall sounding like Williams, I don't know if that's really my impression from the score. I think my impression is more of it kind of sounds somewhat indistinguishable from a couple of other things from that era. Kind of like a little bit in the same world as like a James Newton Howard score for like or was it like Treasure Planet or something? I think is the name of that film.
Yeah.
Something like Atlantis. It sounds kind of like it's in that world. Um, Maybe some hints of like an Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but not really like a John Williams. It doesn't sound like John Williams from that era, or like a John Williams. It doesn't, to me, doesn't really sound much like John Williams Superman, like throughout, other than when he's using the themes. So that'll be, I guess we'll say we have Giacchino winning for who sounds more like John Williams. Like John Williams could have written it. Um, and who adapted the existing material better, I'll give that to Ottman.
Nice, nice. Sweet. Cool. And if you disagree with Ben, let us know in the chat.
Yes, definitely.
Actually, funnily enough, one of the answers was what's his face? Wait, let me scroll down real quick. Someone answered John Powell. Was the answer.
Okay, now if we really want to know who yes, that's my answer. Who did the best? I think Solo is such a fantastic score. It is, it takes a lot of John Williams' themes, it uses them really, really well, without ever really sounding too heavy-handed, except for like the kind of joke where Han goes up and goes to like an Imperial recruiting station, and they're playing like a recruiting ad and has the Imperial March in a major key. Okay, but that's kind of a joke. That's not supposed to be like everything else. It feels appropriate. When he's taking things directly from Williams's Star Wars scores, but then it's blended in a way that, like, with his own stuff, that it sounds like it absolutely belongs in the Star Wars galaxy, but also has his own voice in it, which is, I think, a really incredible balancing act to have achieved. So yeah, I also give the ultimate award to neither of these, to John Powell. But that was not the original question.
Yep. Let's see here. So this next one's going to be for me from Ben. And this is the one titled There Should Be... Whoops. I clicked on something and then I lost the page.
It says, there should be a type of film in between the length of a short and a feature. User writes, in music, there are singles, EPs, and albums. In writing, there are short stories, novellas, and novels. In films, we have shorts and features with nothing in between. Where is the line between a short and a feature? I propose the cinematic novella. A short is half an hour or shorter. A cinematic novella should be half an hour to an hour, and a feature should be more than an hour.
That's an interesting thought. And my first thought is there are a lot of shows that kind of fit that definition in a way, but they're serial, of course.
Right. I think that's one of the comments. This is basically, the real. I'll find it. It's not very many comments. One of the comments we have is, I think, maybe I'm making this. Oh yeah, yes. The person says TV series would be the closest novel comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be like, but the thing is, of course, because it's serial, if that's not what you're after, then, there's not really much. I guess there are kind of anthology shows like Black Mirror and, what's the old one?
Why can I not think of it? This is a show that used to terrify me. But
the Twilight Zone. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Twilight Zone.
Exactly right. My grandparents always used to have it on. Not always, but I remember, like, when I'd go over to their house or stay over at their house, and like they'd have it on, I'd be terrified of this show.
Yes, and while those shows are not that common, I will say, like, so I watched the first 2 seasons of Black Mirror way back in college, and that was its peak popularity by far. Definitely was when I was watching Black Mirror, and it's kind of nice to be able to consume a story that's like fully fleshed out. We've got we're not constrained to sort of like short film isms where, like, because you're compressing so much into such a small period of time, you get these tropes that are kind of like not avoidable. If you need to introduce the character's name for the purposes of dialogue, there's like not terribly many compressed ways you can do it in under 30 seconds. So things like that, it's nice to have room to breathe. Those Black Mirror episodes tended to be, I think, between 40 minutes to 50 minutes or something like that. And some of them were super interesting, and I really liked the way that they platform different voices because in those anthology series, there's no constraint on, I guess, style of voice. There's kind of an overall, I guess, thematic unity, like very broad thematic unity in Black Mirror, generally sort of dystopian, generally sort of social commentary type stuff.
Yeah, it sounds right from what I've seen. I remember watching a few episodes from around that time.
Yeah, and with high budgets for something of those sizes, so you got the filmmakers with their full capability at their hands. I just will say though that like it's hard to justify spending money on that from the consumer level. So like the nice thing about the anthology is that because it's a show, it's packaged like a show, and I can consume it like a show, and I can buy like a whole set of basically long short films, for the price of a TV show, or I could, stream it for the price of streaming. But if you were to like do this in like a theater format or a single disc format, it would become uneconomical pretty quickly. It wouldn't work out just because these stories are just not involved enough. They're not immersing or engrossing or whatever adjectives you want to use enough for you to really want to bite into it, rewatch it 5 times or whatever. But that's not to say there's not room for it, as you can see in those shows. So I guess I kind of agree. I kind of wish there was more competition on that front, because I don't think Black Mirror was the best. It was kind of hit or miss whether I enjoyed in any particular one, to the point where it stuck in my memory. I think I remember like maybe 2 episodes in particular that really stuck in my memory, and one of them had a very didn't stick the landing properly, but but at least the concept was interesting, and the other one was very just well structured drama, well written, and so maybe we can have more anthology shows. Maybe that's the format in which we kind of explore the non-serial version of this. If you include serial content, then I mean you have your just vast amount of awesome filmic cinematic-esque shows that especially became more prominent sort of in the Walking Dead, Breaking Bad era. And Breaking Bad is probably the single best example of such a thing, if you want to watch something like that, 45-minute episodes.
Irving, have you ever seen, I think it's like more of a 50s, 60s show, Wagon Train?
No, I have not.
I've watched I watched a pretty good number of them with my brother this past summer. It's a really long run. I think it's like a 10 or 12 year run, and I think one season the episodes were an hour and a half, but generally the other seasons, each episode is like an hour long, and they're all obviously thematically there's an overarching conceit, right? It's a wagon train going from St. Louis to somewhere out, where they can settle in the West, right? And obviously there's some generic, things that are going to be present in a lot of these, right? Conflicts with native peoples, right, and things like that. But each episode really is self-contained, and it's about an hour. Well, maybe a little bit less with commercials, but total runtime, including commercials, being an hour long each story. So that's maybe somewhere in the grounds in between. So a lot of them are actually pretty well done, and really well acted in a lot of them, varying quality from what I saw. But a lot of them were pretty good, and each one is almost maybe a little on the longer side. Like I said, an hour with commercials, and it does have an overarching sort of thing. And I think some things are probably continued, some storylines are probably continued a little bit, but not really. Each thing is kind of its uh, own little thing. And I don't know. I don't think we really have anything quite like that these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
My understanding too is that was really very important influence on and inspiration for Star Trek.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Yeah, I definitely need to check that out. That sounds interesting. And it reminds me of like the post. I don't remember the name of the genre of like shows like The Office or like Parks and Rec or Arrested Development, that sort of thing. That kind of gets a little bit away from the question, but one of the interesting things about those types of comedy shows, which are absolutely my favorite comedies in show format, I think they're pretty brilliant. But one of my favorite things about those is that they share the best qualities of a sitcom and of a character-driven drama. They often have moving storylines, but moving slow enough where we can still have a lot of sitcom type, like situational comedy type, stuff where, it's these characters now doing this one thing or this one thing is happening to them, but the overall story sort of advances still. And I think I wish there was more of that. Even though it was a super popular style for a long time. Those are like 30 minutes, so I guess that's not really in this category, but yeah, I just enjoy that format.
Yeah, I think a lot of people enjoy that. Office is quite a popular show.
Yes, for sure. All right, this next one, Ben. I don't know if you wanted me to do this one. This one says you left a little note for yourself saying, "Do you want to do that one still?" Or
yeah, this is what I pulled up like almost a week ago, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's see. So yeah, you can go ahead and explain.
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting question. The person says, "What are the greatest 3 symphony runs of all time?" And they gave us an example: Beethoven's 5th, 6th, and 7th, Sibelius 5, 6, and 7, Mahler 1, 2, and 3. And I did read through all the comments, at least at the time. I think there are way more comments now. It's a great question, though. In terms of like, greatness in symphonic writing in like a trio over some period of time.
Right.
I think the most common answer is Mozart 39, 40, and 41, his last 3 symphonies, which obviously it's a good choice. I also saw a number of people saying Tchaikovsky 4, 5, and 6, which I don't think can count, and I did comment that because he writes his symphony Manfred in between his 4th and 5th symphonies. Yes, if we're being technical.
It's just not numbered.
Technical. Yeah. So it's an entirely programmatic symphony. It's based on this poem by Byron called Manfred, and it's follows the story of Manfred in the poem. But he didn't give it a number. He just calls it Manfred Symphony. And it's actually longer than all of his symphonies, so his numbered symphonies. Now Manfred is an interesting piece. It's got a lot of really, really fantastic moments in it, but it's maybe a little bit too long and too bloated. Granted, it's purely programmatic music, so he's really trying to follow the plot of the poem. So, I'll grant him that, Tchaikovsky that. So, it's also not very well known. Although it's one of the first pieces I learned when I started listening to Tchaikovsky's symphonic music many, many, many years ago. So it has a special place in my heart, especially the second movement. I love the second movement. So to me, that's disqualifying. I can't say Tchaikovsky 4, 5, and 6. So I don't know. What do I think? Well. Also a lot of debate about Beethoven, and apparently there's people like to joke that the Beethoven odd number symphonies are great and the even number ones are not great. It's kind of a worn joke, at least I thought. But then you read the comments here. There's a lot of debate about this, and a lot of people are like, "What? I love Beethoven. I've never heard any of his his even numbered symphonies. Like, how? Quite interesting to me. Well, apparently, it is a real thing. People just gravitate towards 3, 5, 7, and 9. Whereas 4 is, I love his Fourth Symphony. Eighth Symphony is charming. Sixth is kind of important in that it sort of shows the rest of the Romantic era of the way, in terms of writing program music, like the Manfred Symphony. It's a story about nature, like a spring or summer day out in the countryside. Yeah. So I'll give a couple of answers here, and first one kind of gonna be tricky. So I gotta go with Shostakovich in here somewhere, right? The problem is picking just 3, because I love all of his symphonies in different ways. So that's really hard. If I'm just gonna pick one from a Shostakovich, I don't know. I would I'd either say 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
That's one option. 9, 10, and 11. Or maybe 7, 8, 9. That's kind of hard. Just is the whole kind of, I'm limited to 3, and honestly, like 5 to 11 is great, and 11 is the first Shostakovich I ever heard. Really, fantastic piece. I really love his 13th Symphony too. But I don't know, if I'm being strict here, I can't really include that. 12 is interesting. I spent a lot of time talking about that in Russia when I went out there a couple of years ago, but it is not of the same consistent level of quality for various reasons, which take too long to get into. So I'll say either 7, 8, 9 or 9, 10, 11 for Shostakovich. For Tchaikovsky, I will say I'll be somewhat controversial here. I'll go 4 Manfred and 5. Rachmaninoff, you can just go with his 3 symphonies, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Anything else I would throw in there? Maybe Beethoven 3, 4, and 5. Those are my trio, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the top comment actually agrees with you for many, or at least shares some similarities. We've got Beethoven 3, 4, 5, and we've got Shostakovich, but they have 8, 9, 10, which is kind of splitting the difference between your two your two trios.
Yeah. Well, they like Vaughan Williams 2 and 4, which is, we've talked about. I spent a whole episode talking about, at least one whole episode talking about Vaughan Williams' Third Symphony. Vaughan Williams, as a symphonic composer, does not get nearly enough recognition. So that's a good probably underrated answer.
Cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. This next one will be for me, and I'll pick the one that I picked for myself.
Okay.
Let's see here. I don't even remember what it was. Okay. So it says, how can a teen approach dramatic themes? I remember now. I'm 16 years old and have wanted to be a director for quite literally my whole life. Awesome. I want to start that beginning step of working with short films, but I'm running into an issue. I want to be able to make compelling stories with sometimes dark and dramatic themes, but I worry that it will come off cringy or edgy. On top of that, my friends are just acting in my stuff for fun, so they're not exactly Daniel Day-Lewis. How can I make deep stories without it seeming corny? So I think there's actually maybe 5 different questions kind of compressed into here, if we were to really break it out. But I'll try to pull out the most important stuff, and I'll start with the idea of corny and cringy things, because I think it's hard for people to pinpoint a lot of times what makes something corny and cringy. For film in particular, a lot of times this occurs when there is something that I've used this term many times on the show. I can't remember where I picked it up from. I'd have to think about it. But it's the idea of a deepity, quote unquote a deepity, where it's like you're saying something that like is seemingly profound, or like is an amalgamation of ideas that can LARP as profound, but isn't really saying much. Either has no like actual content, like saying something like I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of it. There's so many deepities we interact with on a daily basis. Even
how about just like the power of the dog?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Sorry, but also not terribly sorry.
Right, and I would call that movie corny and cringe. Yes, The Power of the Dog is a beautiful example. If you want to study cringe and corniness, you can go study The Power of the Dog. But yeah, it's when you've got... Nathan has an example. He says, silence is the emptiness between space. It's like... Does that contain anything of interest, or does it just sound like other things that actually do contain things of interest? It's like if you actually just inspect that sentence, it's like that doesn't mean anything. Or you're saying something in other cases that is so simple that it didn't warrant the dressings that you gave it. You overdid it. And that kind of here's another word I'll throw at you. This one's from G.K. Chesterton. He has a whole essay on the word vulgar. It's a great essay on what the true meaning of the word vulgar means. And one, you should read it because reading anything Chesterton is just entertaining. But two, his definition of vulgar, I think, is a short person standing up thinking they're tall. That's his definition of vulgar. And what basically
interesting.
Basically, what he's saying is when someone willfully exposes how inadequate they are, someone thinks they're smart and they say something that they think is extraordinarily profound, and they say it with such vigor and confidence, but everyone already knew it, or at least they're wrong, which is even worse. This idea of vulgarity, from the Chesterton perspective, you can also apply here too. So what does this mean for you if you're a 16-year-old approaching dramatic themes? It means that you need to have humility, right? Which I think, not just 16-year-olds, I think everybody, approaching any art making should have humility before the thing that they're trying to do. You shouldn't just... if you're coming at it for fun, if you're just gonna have some fun, like I did with my first short film, that's totally fine too. But there's a humility in the whole thing where it's like, I'm going here to have fun, or if I'm exploring something deep, I'm going here to be honest, but not have this sort of false humility that is really just a hubris of you sort of screaming at your audience some sort of like loud single note emotion, or like, meditating on something that if you had just read what you were supposed to read in English class would have had better expressions there, if that makes sense. So, the point is first have humility and write like, you are out of your depth. Which is actually not a bad place to be when you're writing anyway, because it's kind of... The humility of doing that is I don't know. For me, that's informative. It pushes me to try to explore the questions that I'm exploring or the themes that I'm exploring in a less simple manner, and just assume that like all the thoughts that I have are probably wrong or stupid in some way. That I come at it with a level of care and a level of reverence for what has been said on the topic from those before me. So that is one way of hopefully avoiding it. The second thing I have to say about that as a 16-year-old is you're probably not going to avoid it anyway. That's probably the case. And I don't mean to I don't want to discourage you from doing it, because you should do it anyway. But it's very, very, very probable that when you 10 years from now, you'll look at what you made when you're 16 and go, holy cringe, what the heck did I do? But that's literally everybody. That's not abnormal. That's okay. It's you shouldn't purposely do it if you can avoid it, but you're not going to be able to avoid it in its entirety, and that's okay, because that's what learning is about. I think it's good that you're cognizant of this problem and that you want to avoid it, and I think that's already a good sign. So that there's that. And then the last thing about acting: if you're not acting with actual actors, please don't make them do things that they can't do. You can work really hard with them, but if you're not paying them, and especially if you're not feeding them, feed them, please. But even if you can't feed them or whatever, they're doing it for fun. Don't expect them to be able to pull out the perfect face of existential dread for you on the spot. And maybe right around that. There's a lot of people who will tell young filmmakers to not consider their constraints and to just kind of do whatever. And I just think that's not realistic. You always have constraints, right? So just play with the constraints that you have now. The constraints you have now are you don't have actors who can perhaps carry a character drama, and so write something. It can still be dramatic, but write something that plays to the people you already know what their strengths are, maybe something that they can relate to, or feel strongly about themselves. Things like this can help. So I actually encourage you to keep going with your drama thing, whatever it is, but keep what you said in mind with humility, and work within your means, and that's really good practice. All of that's really good practice. So, yeah, that's my advice. Let's see here. So this next one, will be from me, and to Ben, and let's see what it is. Okay, so it is from r/composer, film composer rather. It says, despite being the field with flat out the best music other than actual standalone music created by bands only to be used as music only and basically, let me just summarize this really long title.
A lot of text, yes.
Film scores are amazing, and this person loves them, but they find that they have a lower replay value when they do a comparison to other mediums like TV, anime, and video games, for whatever reason. And let's see if there's anything interesting in their description. I don't remember there being anything particularly of importance. Here. However, the main flaw I have with film music is exactly as The Fall of the Roman Empire book states: on repeat viewing, the effect wears off, and you may even get irritated. When you hear the theme of Gladiator for the 8th time in the film, you find yourself wanting to tear your ears out for something new. So, not saying you have to share this opinion, but just your thoughts on this person's thoughts.
Okay. Well, I'm not really sure why film would be any different in this regard than TV or anime or video games.
Right.
I mean, first off, okay, you're probably thinking mostly of more melodic and thematic scores, um, because I think that's kind of what your you know analysis is begging or not begging is getting at, right? We're talking about the effect wearing off, um, and I find where I find scores that have lower re-listen ability is in things that are really atmospheric generally, and where even if they're successful in the film, they, especially if there's not much like contrast within this atmospheric world, when it's divorced from the film itself, even if it's really effective in the film, it can be a little bit hard to listen to. But if I put on score to The Empire Strikes Back, to me, so yes, I understand. I've listened to the score. I have no idea how many times, many times. Okay, do I understand all of the themes? Yes, right. Do I know exactly what these themes, what they mean in relation to the scene? I can probably picture the scene that goes along with the track. Yes. Well, with maybe some slight exceptions, there's a little bit of, Empire Strikes Back. Why is Yoda's theme and this really triumphant brass presentation show up in the middle of Luke kind of running through Cloud City before he gets to Vader? That's a great question. But besides that, and I could talk about that too, but that's beyond the scope of this. Okay. But why can I re-listen to this score dozens and dozens of times? I mean, yes, do I understand it? Like, some of the reason that it is shaped the way it is because it is shaped to the film? Yes. But it's just so good all around that I can enjoy listening to it even without the film on. And like I said, obviously this is the film. I can imagine, picture what's happening anyway. But even if I don't, I just want to put on Battle of Hoth music. Fantastic. You can learn so much from the Battle of Hoth. I absolutely did, especially when I was scoring Irving's short film, Operation First Light. There's quite a bit influence in the Battle of Hoth there. Yes, maybe the Battle of Hoth is a little more, dramatic perhaps than, but I think it's appropriate for what we were going for. Anyway, so I can just re-listen to it because it's just such great music, and I don't need the film, and I've heard it a million times. But I mean, I could say, if I get tired of themes, well, I mean, you could put on Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and you'll hear da 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 da. You'll hear it a lot of times.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not really that different. So, it helps sometimes to take a pause from something that you like listening to, because I do think it is possible to over-listen to something. Sometimes I will just take a pause for a while, an indefinite amount of time, and then I will return to it. It's always really good for me to do. Like at the moment, I'm kind of a Shostakovich pause. Probably my favorite classical, so to speak, composer. I'm at the end of that pause. I'm ready to get back into it, to listening to some Shostakovich right now, and I probably will this week.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to take that pause sometimes. Yeah. Well, but I don't know. I don't know that. This person says, like on repeated viewings, it gets tiring, and watchers would realize major flaws, like too much. Too bombastic and too loud, and I don't know. I mean, I guess you could. I feel like this applies to all music, not just film music, right? If you think that there are flaws in Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony, well, the more you listen to it, the more you'll probably notice them.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm not really sure that I tend to notice like laws, so to speak. I just tend to like gravitate towards what I like, personally. So I don't know. I don't know that I really notice this. I listen to a lot of film scores that I love repeatedly. Um, and
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if the difference is between anything else. Yes, to a degree, um, film music is not as free, right, of an art form, or the artist can do whatever they want. As for example, uh, I don't know, your favorite band, right? Um, but it's not like your band is totally free either. They have commercial pressures, especially once they've established themselves. You mentioned religious music. Well, try to write a piece of religious music that doesn't in some way sound cliched.
Yeah.
In some ways, if you look for it, it's really hard to do. It's very hard to do. I could not be someone writing hymns in a hymnal. Um, yes, and you sometimes have this issue with like the big. Well, I'm more familiar with the Catholic CCM world, so to speak. There are some particular Catholic songwriters, maybe we'll call them, who seem to stand out above the rest in terms of their popularity. But honestly, none of their stuff does that much for me. It all just seems kind of interchangeable to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the difference really musically between like Sarah Hart and Matt Maher, and yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like the same thing to me. So
I agree with you.
I don't know.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you on the last point. I think what's interesting about this question is they mention Gladiator particularly, and I was thinking about the score, for Gladiator and the theme and whatnot. And I think one thing that happens too with film scores is because you're not listening to it, there's kind of a medium translation thing happening where just because you're hearing the theme for the 20th time doesn't mean that in the context of the film, it's annoying to hear it that 20th time. A lot of times the mix really dictates what stands out and what gets
Right.
emphasized and not emphasized in the film itself. And there might be a subtle thing happening with the theme in the background of when everything's mixed together of a film, but then you put it on a CD, and then that relative emphasis is gone.
Right. That's certainly true. Sometimes I think that is probably a large part of whatever it is this person is feeling. Although you can also see it in an opposite way. Like you could take like one of the classic sequences, and I know we talked about this probably really early on in this show's run, in the Return of the Jedi, the attack of the sail barge, right, where we kill Jabba the Hutt, right. The music for that scene is phenomenal. Some of the best film music ever written. But somehow it gets absolutely buried in the mix. I don't know why, but you hear two things in the mix if you actually watch the film. You hear, very beginning, like the classic opening title theme, right? Luke's theme, and the heroic theme.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, we hear this kind of really, I don't know how to describe it, but this kind of grand triumphant music after we have the Jabba is slayed and we're flying away from it, and the whole thing kind of blows up into pieces. But the remaining 5 or so minutes of that scene, it's almost impossible to hear the music. When you put on that soundtrack, you can just hear the music, and you don't have to hear all the all the Gungans grunting as they're getting blasted and all that, right? And you don't hear commentary from the droids or anything. The entire track is a master. An entire scene is a masterpiece of music, film scoring or otherwise. Great, great. So many cool things are happening in it. Um, so many awesome things you can learn from as a composer, especially of film music, that are just you just can't hear them. Uh, so that's it's kind of the opposite side of flip side of that coin.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
sometimes you get the soundtrack and like, wow, all of this was going on, and like I kind of want to know how it would enhance that scene if I could actually hear it just a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, YBDS says putting anime music down with video game music is crazy. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Anime music tends to be of much higher quality. Sorry, video game music, you're just not there yet. But uh, you know, but yeah, that's interesting. All right, this next one is from Ben to me.
Oh yes, I remember which one this was. Um,
Pulling
not
it up.
that.
Is it better to submit?
Oh yes,
Yeah, good.
yeah. Okay, that's pretty much just what the title says. Is it better to submit my short in the festival category, best first time filmmaker or best student film? First, it says this is not my first short film, but I'm also in film school, and I was using. I just graduated, but it was made while I was a student using the school's film equipment. So that's going to be better for me to enter it as best student film or best first time filmmaker.
Interesting. Huh. I'm also in film school. That's interesting. Well, obviously, on a strategic level, you're going to want to submit to whatever category you feel like you're going to win in. Um, Interesting. It's interesting that you're not able to. A lot of times, if I remember, it's been a while, but touring the film circuit, a lot of times you were able to just apply for whatever you qualified for. So I would have been able to apply for anyone that I can remember for best first time filmmaker and best film student, film. But if you had to choose, you probably want to go. I would assume first time filmmaker would would be the easier competition, is my assumption, because film students can be grad students, they can be PhDs, so people who maybe this is their fifth, sixth, short film. So, from a strategic perspective, best first time filmmaker might work out better for you. But in another sense, if you're like, I don't know, like you could potentially like, there's an actual chance your film is so good that you could be in Cannes or South by Southwest or whatever. If it's that good and you're that confident in it, and you want to beat people who are experienced for the clout, I guess, and I guess you could do that. But likely,
I think if your film is, if you're confident enough that your film can get into one of these major, truly worldwide major film festivals, you probably don't need to ask this question on Reddit.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. So my thing, I would definitely say, first time filmmaker. Yeah, and this is actually good. This is a good another sort of wider lesson is definitely go seek those awards, because people pay attention to not just they pay attention to everything. They like to see all of the olive branches on your poster. It gets you attention a lot faster, and so don't be stingy with your film festival applications. Really small ones. That's one. You make films for people to watch them, right? Like, you should, like, it's great that you can, like, disseminate your film wider. That's fantastic. Just for the joy of it. But even besides that, a lot of these small film festivals, they have like $10 application fees or whatever, and that racks up really quickly, obviously. So you still have to be judicious. But I've seen people who, they're making their first short film, and they really do think that they can break into, like, major film festivals and whatever, and they're disappointed after they've applied to 15 of them and got rejected to 15 from all 15. Don't do that. If you're going to tour the film circuit, then I would say 95% of them, especially if you're a first-time filmmaker, unless, again, you've got, like, something truly special on your hands, I would suggest that 95% of your entry should be to medium or small film festivals. And then just like buying a lottery ticket can be fun in of itself, once in a while. Yeah, go and submit to, like, some crazy major film festival, maybe the one that means the most to you or connects the best with your film, just for the heck of it and for the experience too. But beware, it's going to cost you like $60, $70, and your chances of winning are basically zero. Your chances of someone even watching your film is kind of suspect. So apply. Actually, the real lesson I want to get to is apply to things that have pertinent awards, especially because when you can put that olive branch on your film and you're an award winner, that's pretty great. I think OFL, Operation First Light, the film that I did with Ben, I think we won 2 awards. One Audience Choice Award, and the other one was Best Children's Short or something like that.
Is that the one that we went to in Cumberland? Best Children's Short, I think.
No, that one was the other one, actually. That was the Audience Choice Award. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. And we were like the only audience members.
Yeah, exactly. But guess who doesn't know that? Anyone who sees the award on the thing. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. A few chats have been going up. Kai says, regarding Irving's bonus hot take, depends on the game and the anime for me. Yeah, I guess if you pick the best game music, and I was speaking more in broad generalities. I'm sure there's many, many, many exceptions to what I said. Nathan says, what's your favorite... Oh, he's talking to Kai. And Kai responded. Okay, they're talking to each other. Sweet. Cool. Is that... Do we finish them all?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Well, if you've got a hot take in the chat, those of you who are watching right now, definitely drop one before we sign off. But that was really fun. I was arguing with Reddit.
Yeah.
And sorry again for my low energy and terrible voice. Nathan says, "Let me think." Okay. We can hang out.
Give you a minute.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you for watching and listening to us. Definitely check out our Black Friday sale on Locals. Link down there at mixedmediapodcast.com. And you can also find a link there to join our Discord server. It's a lot of conversation about art all week. Though sometimes more than I can read. But definitely a lot of stuff there. We'd love to have you join us.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So actually, as Kai says, Nathan has generated a hot take on the fly. Nathan says, how do you feel about the Star Citizen video you posted, Irving? So he's referring to a video I posted on our Discord that Ben just mentioned that you should absolutely join. I'll put it in the chat for those of you who aren't in the Discord, although you should be in the Discord. And this is Star Citizen, a very infamous game, has a very large cult following and a very large amount of haters simultaneously. So I just hot dropped the trailer that they posted recently for their Star Engine game engine in our Discord to see what people thought. It's pretty long. It's like 23 minutes of them showing off their game engine. And, like, I do have some thoughts, because I did watch the whole thing. Kind of... So I don't fit in the camp of either, I guess, hater or cult following. I've never played the game. So, by definition, I don't have something to hate because I haven't played it. But I do remember being very displeased with the marketing campaign for this game, which started development like 10 years ago. This game is like been in development for forever. And I remember the announcement, I remember the promises being made, and I don't mind a game being made. It's actually an interesting thing to have a game being made in very long span but available for play as things roll out. That doesn't necessarily bother me. It's just about expectation management and knowing what you're buying, right? Like from a consumer perspective, if you're going to dump money into a project, whether it's Kickstarter or, you're buying whatever you're buying in game or whatever stuff they came out with to extract money, it's fair to want to have a level of transparency of what you're buying into. Like, even if you get the digital item, like you get the cool skin or the cool spaceship or whatever, that's not really... You're not buying the skin for the skin's sake, right? Like, not entirely. You're buying the skin or the spaceship or whatever because you want to fly it in a game that's fully formed. Otherwise you would ask for the 3D model for you to stare at, outside the game and just, I guess, admire. It really is still about the game. So I didn't like that. That left a bad taste in my mouth of the developers. I don't know I haven't been following the development path, very closely, so I don't know what drama there has been since. But I do know that it's grown a very strong cult following of people who really do believe in the end state of this game, which will probably be never. So, yeah. But that being said, the trailer is mostly about technology, which is cool. It was mostly about what sorts of things the engine allows them to do, and the whole thing was taken from in-engine, which is really impressive. If you were to watch it, you can travel hundreds of thousands of meters, millions of meters, without loading screens. You can go from being in the middle of empty space to being on a surface of a planet without, supposedly without any stutter or whatever. That's the claim, at least. It's a smooth, seamless experience. Excuse me. And so, that's super awesome. But my biggest thing with the game is I don't know what the core game actually is. Like, I don't know what you're like, okay, great, the technology's there. You have beautiful clouds. You have dynamic weather. You have, like they even simulate the winds on the planet such that, it translates all the way from the cloud movement all the way down to the way the grass shudders from the wind, which is cool and immersive, but, it all has to add to something, right? What is the, what's the point of the whole project? And I think the point has also seemed to have changed a few times over the history of Star Citizen. I'll put it this way: it's like watching an RE ad for how great their camera is. I mean, that's great if you're in the market for a camera, but if you're in the market for a movie, that's kind of useless. You know what I mean? Okay, great. The color rendition is awesome. The whatever is awesome, but okay, but what's the game? What's the game? Or in this, in the analogy, what's the movie? It's like advertising a movie with by putting the camera in front of someone. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Nathan says, Cloud Emporium has been fighting the engine forever to get the max player size in a world up. I forget what it was limited to, but it was fairly low. This was CryEngine limit, if I remember correctly, waiting for Bohemia Interactive to follow suit with making an engine. There was stutter in the trailer. I do recommend them, though. I do commend them for not attempting to edit that out. Yeah, I did notice the little bits of stutter, and that's got to make you think, right? What's causing the stutter? Is it a I don't know. I don't know actually even know what setting they shot it in. Is this a hold on. Excuse me. Is this a bandwidth issue? communicating server side, or is it, you know, a computational problem, at which case that's really bad because you know that they're using the beefiest computer of all time to render their little demo. So I'm not sure. And yeah, CryEngine, while at the time the game was announced, was like basically one of the most visually capable engines out there, and I remember seeing some technical demos from it. It looks like it's starting to age already, which when you're like developing something for this long period of time, you know, I guess that's expected, but it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. Nathan says, the title of the video is Star Engine. It's a tech demo, not a showcase of gameplay, which is understandable to me. No, I agree. Tech demo is the wrong word. I do mean tech showcase. Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was saying. But, like, I think a lot of people are renewing hype in the franchise, the game, whatever it is, because of the tech showcase, if that makes sense. If you look at the comments and stuff. And I think it's super cool from a tech perspective. I just, like, what does it mean for the game? I feel like if I were making such a showcase, I would tie it into the advantages, the new creative freedoms I have because the tech has evolved. You know, for me to either tell a good story because, you know, being a storyteller, that's the perspective I'd be coming from, or like whatever other considerations from a mechanics, game design, whatever level. So yeah, that's my thoughts, I guess. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Nathan says maybe they are going to sell their engine, so it's like an ad for that. Oh, maybe. Okay, that's true. That could be. So it's like a camera ad, actually. Well, in that case, then I guess I can't fault it. I mean, I still kind of don't know who the target audience is, and maybe they're just kind of shouting into the void and seeing who would like it. Nathan says, I would say that maybe they wanted to fill the Unity hole, but there wasn't enough time to develop it in the time since the Unity drama started. Oh, I see. Yeah, it could be. It's pretty cool. I can see other developers taking something this capable and doing crazy stuff with it, that's for sure. Although, again, I don't know, the marketer in me kind of like still doesn't get it quite, because usually when you make an ad, you make it for a target audience to understand the applications, you know, whatever, where it felt like they couched everything in Star Citizen terms. So maybe it's just not good marketing on their behalf if that's what they're trying to do. Like showing off the sweat at the end and the fact that your character dynamically sweats and cries. I mean, that's cool, I guess, but like that, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a skeptic. Yeah, but until I mean, I'd be interested to see if anyone picks it up. That'd be super interesting to see if that's their goal. That's one way to monetize the project. Sweet. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it. You want to take us out, Ben?
Yeah. Well, thank you once again for watching and listening. Again, make sure to check out links to everywhere you can find us. Give us a like, a thumbs up, whatever the equivalent is on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on is. And again, join us on our Discord. And also check out that Black Friday sale on Locals, mixedmediapodcast.com. Link to that. Again, special shout out to our supporters over there on Locals. Hey Kairos, Alex Egbert, 99 Crime, and Post. Yeah, hopefully I'm not forgetting anything too important.
No, I think you got it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight.
See you next week.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No need for the